Hi guys, welcome back. So let's pick an England team to face Australia in this deciding test. Very exciting, but I think there's a couple of issues as well around this selection. The first is tactics, and the title of this video, that England actually now need to go backwards in order to go forwards. Now plenty's been made of England's striving to get this new attacking system going, which didn't work in the Six Nations, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work. It didn't work at all in the first test, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work. But in the second test, when they did win, it wasn't down to this new system. They actually regressed a bit, and they played a much more forward-centric game with aggressive drives. Sure, there were some good tip-on passes as well, but it was some big smash-ups from the likes of Genge and Vunipola, and a brilliant tactical kicking and chasing game from the backs. Kicks from Jack Van Poortvliet and Farrell, good chases from Noel. That's what really made the game, the solid defence, and that was all without a sniff of a break from the back. So definitely not some new exciting attacking game plan, but it definitely worked. But that's a more traditional English blueprint, if you like. So what do England do in this final test? Now, maybe they try their new system again, because it's a building process. For me, I want to win the series. I think this is a massive series away from home, and maybe the last of those great tours this year where you go away somewhere and tour for 3 games, maybe with a new global calendar coming in. So I think you go for the win. And I'm saying, as much as I'd love to see a new attacking system, I'm saying let's go a bit more traditional. Let's go for the win. Let's go for what we've seen has worked, that evidence says can work. So my selection has that in mind. Now the second issue is injuries. Now, I think it's the same for Australia, so it's certainly not unfair, but it's just one of those things. Underhill has had to go home. Itoje's had to go home. 2 massive players for England, especially considering Curry's gone home already. So that's 3 of their best players gone home. Now, Itoje sure gets under the skin of some people, but he's a class performer. But again, Australia without players. So how do they cover that? So let's get the team up. I'm going to go through it. Let me know what you guys would pick. Now in the front row, Ellis Genge has been delivering on my expectations, really played well, some explosive carrying. Last match looks very comfortable in an England shirt now. Jamie George, maybe not the most athletic, but a very solid set piece, and for the strategy I'm going for, that is everything. Actually, Will Stewart has been doing probably better than I thought he might. I thought he might be solid, but he's actually been carrying really, really hard, looking more and more comfortable, so that's a good news story for that starting front row. Now, what do you do in the second row? Johnny Hill, without Itoje, has to step up as the senior second row, and he was doing some nice stuff, some really good line-out play in the first 2 tests, but he's going to have to step up again as a leader. And I think you throw the youngster in there, Chesham in at the deep end, a huge game, but he's got super potential. And I think you bring in Ezekwe on the bench to cover second row. He could cover 6 as well, so that's fine. But yeah, massive game for Chesham, and of course it is a big loss losing Itoje, but Australia have lost players too. Luckily, at 7, with no Underhill, no Curry, Jack Willis has been past fit, which is a huge boost for England. I mean, they had 3 quality 7s, and if they'd lost all of them, that would have been a big problem. They'd have had to put probably Ludlam in there, and since he's chunked up a bit, he's not the quickest anymore, actually. I've backtracked a little bit on that, having watched him a couple of times. But luckily Willis can play, but I'm sure Australia are going to give him some digs in the ribs just to test them out, that's for sure. I actually had lined up maybe Jack Walker as an emergency 7 as well, because he's a serious athlete. Billy V has to stay at 8 for sure, and he's been doing his job, trucking it up hard. And again, with this traditional English system that I want to play in this match, he fits the bill there. As does Jack Van Poortvliet, an excellent kicking display last match. Plus he's got a decent all-round game as well. So absolutely him starting. And you'll see on the bench, actually, I think let's give Randall a run. Not because Kerr's done anything wrong, but Randall's a good impact player. We've come on this tour, brought him down here. I think it's worth giving him at least 15-20 minutes at the end of the game. Now, big call at 10. If we're going to play the traditional system, solid defence, big kicking system, Farrell's the man for sure. Kicked well at goal last week as well, really got stuck in. I was impressed with Farrell. Yeah, he's not the quickest, and when he's at 12, it's a little bit of an attacking regression, if you like. But at 10, with this game plan, for sure, really good stuff. Farrell's your best pick. Smith moving to the bench. And like I said, Smith's, been all at sea really in this system. But him coming on, 15-20 minutes to go when the game's breaking up with this system, I think could work really nicely. In the centres, let's go a bit more traditional again. A strong 12 in Porter. From what we've seen so far, I think, he's got some real potential to actually bust the line, and England desperately need that without Tuolangi. Marching back in at 13, I think he's a class operator, but we just haven't seen the best of him so far. And on the bench as well, Fraser Dingwall is too good a centre not to see at some point. So a bit tough on the likes of Freeman or May, if you like. But I think we need to see Dingwall as well. And he's not, a weak choice. He could come on and do really well at 12 or 13, I think. Chasing those kicks. Noel played really well last match. He's not the quickest. Is he the future? Is he going to win a World Cup? I'm not sure. But, he played so well last match. And if we're playing a kick chase game, he's definitely a good player for that. And Arundel, for me, has to start. Let's see him play. Let's see a little bit of X factor in this backline, please. Even if we're not going to play an expansive game, you want players who can do something from nothing. And then Stewart, a few calls for him to go, but he's been doing his job really solid. And if you add a little bit of pace in and around him, I think it helps him out for sure. On the bench, Walker's in on the bench at hooker for me. Cowan-Dickie, again, hasn't been terrible, but just doesn't quite look his old self athletically, power-wise. I don't know if you've noticed that as well. Mako's been doing fine, so he stays there. Hayes did physically some good stuff in the last match, but also a few errors as well. But yeah, he's got potential. Then you've got Ezekwe covering second row, maybe 6. Dudlem covering all the back row positions, 6, 7 and 8 probably. And the backs on the bench, as I mentioned. So I think you can cover the injuries just about. Australia are hanging on in certain positions as well. And should England go for the traditional tactics that I'm suggesting to win this series, to try and win this series, or do they go for broke and throw the ball around, playing their attacking system with Smith and Farrell once again? Pop all those comments below, and I'll catch you next time.